Ani DiFranco, good to see you. Welcome back to eTown.
Nice to see you, Nick.
This is an amazing story. Zoe Boekbinder got this whole project going, was inspired by the stories they heard in prison, and started making these words into songs. How did you get involved?
Zoe and I have a mutual friend in town, a roving organist named Brian Coogan, and he hipped me to the project. Of course, it was at that point just a pile of songs, collaborative songs. I guess there were some demos, and so, it sounded up my alley. I've been compelled to try to help reform our criminal injustice system for a long time. And anyway, I heard the demos, and like Zoe described, the dance audience was just struck.
Yeah.
Just think it's very good art, powerful writing, powerful collaborative, vital energy coming from the work. So I signed up. I said, okay, I don't know.
What kind of shape were the songs in when you first started working? Were they still roughs? Were you creating new musical beds for some of them from scratch?
We sort of went from scratch. I mean, a few of the tunes, we used elements from the demos, but it was really, we just went tabula rasa, and we, because we knew that we wanted to reinvent this material using a lot of people other than us,
right?
And getting a lot of voices and musicians and producers and involved. So it was a mystery journey from the beginning.
Right. And am I right that there was no recording allowed inside the prison, so you had to find other singers for most of these songs?
Yeah.
You had to pair singers to these songs as you were making them come to life.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate, but hopefully there's a little penicillin in there somewhere. As you say, we couldn't record the writers directly. Hi-fi, anyway. We recorded some over the phone.
Right.
One of them was released in time to record in a studio, so that there is one song on the record, which we just heard, which is
Survivalist. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the writer himself performing the lyrics. So so what we did, and I don't even remember, Zoe, if we sort of had decided to do this, but what we instinctually did was bring in a lot of women,
right,
to embody the songs of these men. And maybe, subconsciously we're striving to communicate the humanity and allow people to feel connected and empathy, in a way that maybe a female voice, and switching up,
right,
that gender dynamic, and it is another entry into the heart of a human being that you are predisposed to dehumanize, because you're taught by the society, this is a criminal, this is a dangerous person, and so you listen to a very gentle female voice delivering a story, and you drop that
right,
conceived notion, and maybe you open your heart sooner. Yeah. Later on in the record, though, we did also include the voices of some of the writers just speaking. Zoe recorded conversations along the way, and so for me, that's another important element of the journey of the record, is to hear some of these writers just speaking candidly in their own voice to a friend. And as a listener of the record, you become that friend. And I think that's an important moment, too, for doing for the work of the album to be done, which is to demonstrate that people in prison are people and they're the same as you and me. They've made mistakes, but all of us are redeemable. All of us have more to do.
You mentioned that you have been focused on this issue, at least paying attention to the what you call the criminal injustice system, for a long time. Hearing these songs, these stories presented in this way, what did you learn? What do you know now that you didn't know before you started this project?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. My entry into awareness of what's happening in America with incarceration and was when I was very young. I realized I was anti-death penalty. I think capital punishment is a continuation, even an escalation of violence that blooms its trauma out through families, through communities, the same as any murder. I, in the beginning, had the maybe not irrational notion, a somewhat logical notion that the idea of, say, life without parole was a humane alternative to capital punishment. It took me a lot more years to realize that life without parole, especially handed out like candy bars to certain populations, just wantonly doled out as though it's nothing, can and does amount to the longest, slowest, maybe even in the end, most painful death sentence. You have your life taken away, but you have all the time that your life would have inhabited to not live it. So that is something that I think I understood even more deeply through being involved in this project. Many of the writers are serving life without parole sentences, and some of them are incredibly gentle, thoughtful, rehabilitated people and have no means to be recognized for that or to be treated accordingly. They have no means to become parole eligible, even after serving 10, 20, 30, 40 years for a crime.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I can certainly see how that's a painful recognition, growing awareness, and of a horrific system. And so you're exactly right. I think this project has the ability to sort of break down stereotypes and create a point of entry for lots of people to at least approach an issue where they normally might say, "Oh boy, I don't want to go there. I don't want to learn more." I think we're conditioned, sadly, to avoid things that make us uncomfortable. And so by making beautiful music and having, lovely voices singing these stories and songs and poetry that's coming from this horrific environment, you're actually allowing people to sort of find a way in and experience it for themselves, which is really cool. There's another participant on our call, Nathen Jackson. Nathen, are you there? Nathen, good to see you. Good to meet you. Thank you for joining us here on eTown, man.
My pleasure, of course.
And you're one of the songwriters on this project.
I am not one of the songwriters. I am one of the poetry writers.
Oh, poetry writers. Okay.
Zoe, thankfully, is the person who took my poems, plural, and made them into a song.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the words from the general parts of the song were mine. Yes.
And can you tell us about when you first met Zoe?
I've told this story a couple times. And one part that I've always left out because actually I didn't think about it is when she actually did come to do the concert parts. I never actually participated in any of the concerts or went to see them. I knew they were going on. I've seen the artists come in and go to the stage, but I was more the we gonna go over here and work out type convicted criminal. But the first time I did meet Miss Bookbinder is Zoe was when she came to do like a workshop in the law library, and the one of the biggest things that stood out to me was I've seen a lot of outside people or free people come into the prison environment and hold workshops or groups or teaching sessions, so to speak. And it's always been people sit up like at a podium or at a panel of chairs, and all the inmates sit over there a safe distance away, perceived safe distance away. And Zoe was 100% different in that aspect, as to the point where she actually sat between inmates and with inmates. And I believe the first time I actually saw her like interact, she was standing at the desk of the law library talking to Mr. Batriz and Mr. Gatlin. The first time I really locked her in.
Yeah. And how long had you been incarcerated at that point?
At that point, I think that was about 2009 or 10. So, yeah, I think that was 10 or 11. So I had been incarcerated for about 13 years at that time.
Wow.
I got incarcerated in 1997. I was liberated in 2014.
Yeah, I just want to point out to our those of you who are watching the video that the background is reminiscent of what your life used to be, but it's not literally where you are now.
It's not where I'm at. I'm free. I've been free for 6 years.
Yeah.
But I believe that having backgrounds like this and in interviews like this and other things that I do help make people realize that that was my reality, and that is the reality of multitudes and multitudes of men and women in this country.
Yeah.
And it's I think that's more of the reason I use it, is to bring that through. So it's not like I'm not going to be sitting in like acting like this freedom is everything when there's so many people that deserve it and can't have it.
Yeah. So you obviously made connections of one kind or another with your fellow inmates. And,
absolutely.
And is there a way, as I understand it, communication is not easy from inside, right? So are you able to keep in touch with people? And
yeah, I was actually just talking to Sincere yesterday, another artist on the album.
Yeah.
Dixon. But I keep money on my phone. They have a collect call program in there, and I keep money on my account. So the individuals that I do associate with that are trying to affect change and that are trying to better themselves and come home to be better people, I keep in touch with them as much as possible. It's been rougher due to what's going on right now with this pandemic and stuff. But yeah, letters still go, mail still goes normal.
And Nathen, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Sacramento, California.
In Sacramento, okay.
Yeah, I was about to say my neighborhood out of habit, but yeah, I grew up in Sacramento, California, the capital.
Yeah.
In basically pretty much the slums of Sacramento. All my life, I don't like to use this, but I was pretty much a criminal I was pretty much engaged in criminal activity from the age of 12 and a half to the time I caught my case that I did 17 and a half years for.
Wow. We're going to play your song now. Chorus, maybe you can just sort of talk to us about the chorus.
I know what the chorus was supposed to mean, or what it means. And basically what it means is, from my understanding, is that the prison industry is an industry. And they're so happy with calling us villains and making us the bad guy so they can make more and more money off of us, so they can lock us away.
Yeah.
And collect those checks, certain amounts of money for every head in a bed. That's, they're making a killing. That's the point of they're making a killing.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to note that those are the only lyrics I wrote on the whole album. And wait, can you tell us who sings the song?
Oh, Ernesta Turner. My niece, Miss Ernesta, the lovely Miss Ernesta Turner, is related to me by marriage. She's a cousin of my daughter. But yes, it's her voice that sings the actual song on the album.
What a great singer. Yeah, she's a really good singer. Okay, well, we're going to hear the song, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it some more.